thank you again for agreeing to do this with us, and thank you to all of you for coming. We would like to make this session a little bit more interactive, and so I would like to put a question to you, the audience. And so the question is, what is your unique gift? I'll give you some time to think about that. Henriette, clearly a woman with ambition, but I'd like to turn a little bit to the idea of acquiring knowledge and expertise. And you have focused a large part of your life on developing expertise. First a degree in political science, then attended Harvard in management, working towards your chartered financial planning certificate, and now your MBA. You ran your own MGA for 7 years, being the youngest and first woman to do so in Quebec. Now regional vice president of one of the largest insurance networks in Canada, IDC. Nominated in 2020 as the top 100 people in finance. Known as the woman who makes the impossible possible. A wife, a mother of 3 kids in competitive hockey, which is basically like having a 4th child. How did you use your knowledge to gain success?
So I gained success really, I don't know,
And is it enough?
Power?
Yeah.
Is the knowledge enough? Is the knowledge enough to gain success?
Yeah.
So knowledge is important, okay? It's important so that you can identify opportunities. It's important to be prepared for opportunities, but knowledge is not enough. There are many, many people, many women, many people who are very bright, very smart, have lots of education and don't have success. And they are missing something. What are they missing? So I shared with one of my friends recently that we are very fortunate here. I wasn't born here, but we are very fortunate to live in Canada, a free, democratic, prosperous country. We could have been sleeping on concrete floors. We could have been caught in civil wars. We could have been uncomfortable talking about politics in our homes out of fear. But we're not. We're free here. So we have an opportunity, and we were describing just before new opportunities that the government's providing for women. So we are filled with opportunities here. But is opportunity enough to succeed? It requires courage. So Danielle was just talking about fear, always being afraid. The more knowledge you gain, the more fearful you become, because now you're aware of the things that can go wrong.
That's true. So true.
But you can't let the fear prevent you from taking leaps. So knowledge is important to be able to identify opportunities. You have to have the opportunities. You have to have courage to seize those opportunities. You also have to have the perseverance to overcome the obstacles that will come. There will be many obstacles to come. And you have to persevere to rise to the best of your abilities. And then you have to have the will to do whatever it takes. So knowledge is not enough. It's important to be able to identify opportunities. You need to have opportunities. You need to have courage. You need to have perseverance. And you need to have the will.
It sounds like these are the kind of skills that one might acquire in life, as opposed to sort of it being a God-given thing that you're born with. A quote that I've read before that I really like is what I think characterizes that is, the best way to predict the future is to create it. What does that statement mean to you?
The best way to predict the future is to create it. Abraham Lincoln said that. And the future is what you dream for it to be. It isn't something that's happening to you. And that's really empowering for us as women, isn't it?
It is.
It's something that is within our control, especially here. So what did I imagine my future to be? When I ran my own MGA, managing general agents, my own business for several years, I was fine. I was successful. I was doing well. I could have stayed there, but I envisioned something greater for me. I envisioned a future bigger because I'm constantly in pursuit of getting better. And so I reached out with my knowledge and expertise and experiences, and I prepared for an opportunity. And the opportunity came, I was prepared, and I sold my company. I took a position that I knew no one at. I had my little comfort zone, and I left my fears behind, and I entered into something new, courage. So I entered into something new. I wrote a new future for me. I traveled between Quebec and the Maritimes, running 2 provinces with 3 very young babies. And I prepared there too, acquired experience. It wasn't God-given. It was hard. It was very hard. And when everyone else was sleeping in the house, I was with a lit tablet, nursing and reading and learning and acquiring things and finding the gaps. And then I prepared for a new opportunity. So when IDC Worldsource came looking for someone to lead in Quebec, I was ready for an opportunity. What are we creating? What future are you creating for you?
The younger generation of women is always looking to you as examples, as mentors, as people to emulate. And one way to look at mentorship is leading by example, sometimes in small but oftentimes significant ways. And by way of example, the CEO of Deloitte, Kathy Engelbert, once said in an interview that in an effort to encourage her female colleagues to stay within the firm, she made an important change, a change to how she communicated her work-life balance. And so what she would do is every time one of her children had an activity, she would simply say so to her colleagues or to her clients, as opposed to making up some kind of work-related excuse, just that would make it seem like she's, not being responsible about her work. So this is one of the small changes that she made in terms of sort of encouraging the younger generation of women to say, oh, okay, you can sort of have it all. Henriette, I'd first like to turn to you on this one. What are some of the things that you have done, either quietly or overtly, to influence or to inspire the younger generation?
I can't make excuses because I have 3 little ones. That would be a lot of excuses. So I didn't go that route. But I think if I look at some of the mentees that I've had, I really love people. I really, really love them, actually. And I make a lot of effort to get to know you. I want to know what inspires you, what scares you, where you're from, where you were born. My best friend, every house I bought, first thing she'd go to check my basement because she lived war and she would have to run down many floors to hide there. And it stayed with me. She doesn't know I was going to say that. But those things, they help me to bridge something between you and me because we're different, you and I. And we're very different. But I have to find a common ground when you want to know something that could inspire you from me. And what I try to do is create that bridge. We stand there. And I really just act as a mirror to show how awesome you are. And I've said that to you. And because I really find something about you that's awesome, and I really, truly love it, and you see it in me, because I'm sincere, and you recognize that, you believe that you're also awesome. Because you are. And you go out looking for the best version of yourself. I want you to go out looking for the best version of you, constantly. And so, in mentorship, what have I done? It's little things at a time. One person at a time. It could be a lifelong relationship. It could be a one-time meeting. But be that, and I encourage you to be that for other people too, and for other women. Be the person who inspires them to see the awesome in them, because we're going to make such a huge difference together. And isn't it nice to know that someone sees you? To see the beautiful qualities in you? And I do, and I see them, and they're unique in you. They're gifts you have. I look for those gifts. And I sort of just remind you of them. And then when you're confronted with an obstacle, or with a decision, or with something that seems like a mountain to you, when you by exposing the awesomeness, you have the courage to walk up to that mountain and realize it's just a tiny little molehill finally, and you're able to overcome it. So can't say that I've done anything magical or big or so impactful, but I feel like every relationship, every encounter I have, I try to make as impactful as I can be, because you matter. You really matter.
No.
What else was I doing here then?
Another important component of one's success that can either make you or break you in your career, frankly, is family. And in a number of interviews, I have often heard Indra Nooyi, CEO of PepsiCo, talk about the influence of family on her career. She describes being brought up in this socially conservative community in which she often got conflicting messages from her family members. So she tells a story about her mother, how her mother used to always tell her, I want you to be married by 18 and you can become prime minister after that. That's fine. And she talks about this idea of how the men in her life often encouraged her to aim big. How has family, and I'll put this question to both of you, but how has family influenced your career? Who'd like to start on that one?
My greatest influencer and mentor and coach is my mom. She's not here, but she's away. She taught me, like many of you must have been taught, that nobody is beneath me. But she also taught me that nobody is above me. And so she taught me that if I sit at the table with a senior executive, a CEO, a president, a prime minister, that he has fears or she has fears just like me, and that ultimately they are my equal. And there is nothing to fear from that relationship. So that has stuck with me. And people in my entourage, including my husband, when we first got married, he's like, oh my God, you believe you can become anything? I'm like, I do. I do. And the belief that nobody is above me was so strong, and it was so important and impactful that it resonated throughout my life, and it shaped experiences that I had. By far, the greatest lesson that I have ever had.
I'd like to turn a touch back towards mentorship, but really more of the idea of advocacy in the idea of mentorship. And Dr. Mona Nimmer, Canada's Chief Science Advisor, described how one of her first forays into advocacy and advocating for change for women was when she was still in grade school in Lebanon. And she explained that at the time there was no real opportunity for girls to get into the scientific stream of academia. And so she persuaded her school to actually create this stream so that women can achieve that in university and then achieve a career in science. Do you recall a time in your life in which you advocated for something bigger than yourself, or something for you and also for the people that followed you?
I'm going to tell you a story. Is this on? Yeah, I'm going to tell you a story. So I had my own company, and I had to have a business relationship with someone, okay? So the way that we're structured is, if you're not big enough, there's a part of you that needs to be in relations with someone who's bigger. And so I had a business relationship with someone. I never really met that person. It was just on paper. They were profiting from my work, and it's just the way the things were working. And there is an unspoken rule, and maybe even spoken and written somewhere, that they can't directly poach my team because we work together and they have privileged information. You have to keep in mind that I was very young. I was very, very young. First woman, youngest. Forget being a woman, I was the youngest to own a company of that kind in that industry. And so I realized this big tycoon who I had associated with was poaching my people, and what was I going to do about it? You have to go back to the fact that I was raised to believe nobody is above me. So I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, you know, you can't do that. And there is this rule and business rules, and fair game and all kinds, and if you don't stop, I'm going to invoke all of those. And he did an awkward silence on the phone, and he says to me, "You're going to be okay, little girl." And then I said, "Yeah, of course I'm going to be okay." I never paid any mind at that moment, at least, to what he had said. It didn't make me feel insecure or like I was young. And I was trying to make my way. I was fighting my way every single day. There were moments where I felt like somebody took a cheese grater to my skin, to my entire body. Everything that could go wrong would go wrong, but it didn't matter. I would take my baby, nurse him, and shove him under my desk and go about my day. When my son was 3 months old, so those of you who've had children, 3 months, he was 3 months, I find out I'm pregnant again. Second baby, nurse him, put him under the desk. Go on. And then suddenly I started getting calls from women who had entered into our industry, who were coming to talk to me, as if I had something to say. And how did you do it? Who are you doing business with? And I didn't realize at that moment that they were asking me questions because nobody else had done it. They had invited me on insurance panels to make decisions on products that influence the financial market because I was a phenomenon, because I was new.
You were different.
I was different, but I didn't know. I didn't know. And maybe that ignorance at the time before I acquired all the knowledge gave me the courage I needed.
Yeah.
And I just kept pressing on until that same man sits on a board with me and he sits back and he looks at me and he says, "You know, we were sitting on the sidelines waiting for you to fail." And I say, "But I didn't." And he says to me, "I know." So what I didn't realize is that I had sort of started shaping something where women felt that they didn't just inherit businesses or stand behind a man as he grew his business, but could take the lead because young, very young woman who had no idea had started something and had succeeded.
Do you feel like women are more economically and politically empowered today? And do you see that there's a difference between North America and, say, the MENA region?
Actually, I think you're all of you are leaders. So I'm going to quote somebody that I love, Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
So people are always looking at you, at us, even though you don't know that they are. So, you know, we mentor sometimes quite by accident, and we lead by accident. So because we've been given all this responsibility. I think of Maggie, Elizabeth, Joy, Jamie, Bhavna, and all of you are leaders. All of you are amazing, and people are watching you. So you inspire people every day. You have great power. So you have great responsibility. And I'm going to say we because I have my hockey moms in the room, and we pass the puck. We talked about this, Adrian, Joy, Jamie, about how we have a responsibility. So maybe the world's not fully ready for the powerhouses that we are. But we need to start the process of change. And so think about that. It's changing with us, but it needs to change with the next generation too. So we are mothers.
We are.
And we have children. And our children need to be empowered. And then we need to be taught, not just girls, but also boys. So we are teaching our sons how to interact, respect, love women in a different way. So maybe the change and the fight doesn't end with us. But it's going to continue into our sons and our daughters. And so we have great power. We have great responsibility to the next generation.
And so my last question to you is something that I certainly contend with all the time is guilt, right? Like I've got 2 kids, one of them in hockey, and, you know, mother of 4, mother of 3. How do you deal with that? Like, what do you do to contend with that guilt that you, maybe you don't feel guilt, maybe it's just me, I don't know.
I used to feel guilty.
Okay, all right.
I really did used to feel guilty, and I sort of compartmentalized myself into this role where I had to come home and make lunch and dinner, and then I wasn't there, and oh my God, and I missed something. I don't know what I missed, but I missed something, and I panicked, and then I go to sleep, and I'm like, oh my God, what if he loses? I realized, and again, people influence me more than I ever influenced them. And there are two people in this room that they don't know. Every time I speak to them, I'm a better person. I'm a better mother, and I have a lot more drive. And I'm going to call them out. It's Elizabeth and Joy. The two of you have found ways to inspire me, and thank you. And for me, I put all that guilt away. I put all that guilt away because we're equal members of the same team now. And our objective is to win as a family. And we have common goals. We have the respect of each other's goals. We have the gratitude that my son is a great skater. He's amazing. He's amazing.
My son thinks he's amazing.
Maybe I'm a mom, so I think he's amazing too.
My grandson is the best.
And that being said, it's thanks to me and my husband who schlep the kids and take them to their activities and help them to grow. And it's really thanks to them, because I also come from a traditional home. Like I said, I wasn't born here. I had to marry the traditional man, although I married a French Canadian. He has expectations when I come home. So in the beginning of our marriage, there was also a big adjustment. Came home and he's expecting a clean house, hot meal, and proper and clean children. And I was like, oh Lord.
How do I do that?
How do I do that? So we had to, we had to evolve. And now when I have long days, when I'm here with you, I'm hungry too when I come home. And so we've changed. We're equal members of the same team. So we're supporting each other. We're helping each other with our common goal, each other's goals. But it's an evolution. It's a learning curve. It's a process. My children, I love them. They are often my purpose. But Joy has taught me that they're not my life. And they have their own path and their own life. Elizabeth has taught me that it is time to let go sometimes. And so all of those little things have helped me to put aside my guilt. And I feel like I mentor my children now.
Yeah.
They look to me in admiration and inspire them. So we have common goals, family, but we're also separate individuals who help each other through life.
Well, thank you, everyone, again, for being here.